Hey guys, how's it going? And welcome to a new video here. I'll apologize ahead of time for if there's bad sound quality and all that. I had gotten this and went to film sort of opening and also my thoughts on this constructed deck and all that all in one sort of thing. So yeah, we'll go ahead and get right into it. This is the new starter constructed deck from the new cluster. Came out with Time Spinning Witch. It's pretty cool. It's only 15 bucks, which is nice. If your local game store has it for more, then still buy it from them. Let me just freaking open it. So an interesting thing I'll get to in just a sec is how they did foiling in this. I know I probably opened this wrong. I apologize for anyone like getting super mad at me. So it comes with, the normal rule sheet that they usually come with. And this is the normal thing that we've seen in every single starter deck. I think this is actually the exact one that was used in the starter decks at the start of Red Cluster. So has all the rules on how to do it, and the back side will have a playmat with layout and all that. This is actually a really good deck to start out with for someone who's new to the game. Because it just works so well with each other. You get to know a lot of the different mechanics inside of this deck and everything, the playmat thing and all that. So yeah, so go ahead and get right into it. So first up, we'll start with the ruler here. So it's Gil Alhamat, he who controls the taboo. You see, all the cards in here is going to be like Vingo 3, where they're all technically full art, even if they're not foiled or textured or anything like that. Same case here, no texturing, but it is full art and foil on one side. But he's historical, he gets judgment energized and works with different things. If you guys want details on these cards and how they work, we went over them during our spoiler videos. They're the last couple videos of our spoiler video series. You can check those out. And we also had a mirror match gameplay where you can get more detailed things about it. But the ruler himself, he's pretty good. I like how he's able to produce all different colors to play historical cards. And when he flips, all of the stones just produce every color. That's a really cool mechanic in any type of deck. I don't know how well he would work outside of this sort of tribal deck, but it's still a cool mechanic. And you can give him a bunch of different effects by banishing resonators. And his God's Art is decent. As you guys might have seen in the mirror match, his God's Art is pretty much completely useless in a mirror match. But outside of that, his God's Art could be pretty good, I think. So like I mentioned with the foiling, so you get 5 foil cards. And they're the exact same cards in every single set. So no other cards will be foil except for these 5, which is Venus, Scant Vision. It's an important card. Viola. Blazer is a pretty interesting card, and the True Magic Stone, which I think is not very good, but it's cool looking. So it's cool that we got foils. Having set foils also makes it easier to collect these specific foils. You don't have to worry about the card you like being super expensive to get the maximum rarity, which is the case with me a lot of times. These foils do count towards the play sets. There's 4 copies of every single card in the deck, with the exception of the basic magic stones and the true magic stone. There's only one of all of those, so these count toward that. I gave my thoughts on the true magic stone, and every single card in here, whether it's a chant or resonator, is historical. So going through the rest of the cards, it's pretty cool, pretty nice quality. And I like that they're full art, and they do have they're not foil, but they have this sort of gloss to them, which I really like. And how some of these cards, as you'll see, work only inside of this deck, inside of a tribal historical deck. They won't be usable outside of that. Other cards, like in my opinion, Sylvia the Slave Girl, is usable outside of this, because just on its base, it's a 1-cost red 4/4. That's a pretty decent vanilla card. And the fact that if there's a counter on it, it gains flying, swiftness, precision, and pierce. That's crazy. So imagine you're in a black-red deck and you are able to play Nameless Mist on your opponent and put a counter on here, suddenly you just got a 1-drop with all those abilities. And then the Awakening probably won't use as much, however, it's a nice thing to have. There are ways to get that Awakening out super early that I'm going to look into at some point, namely I forget, but the Fire Resonator that banishes to produce Will is an easy one that I can think of. We got Saturnus with his little squid, Scant Vision. This is pretty much a must-have. This is like I had mentioned the tribals. Tribal decks usually have this 1-cost chant. You look at the top X amount of cards of your deck and put a card from one of them that's X tribal card and put it into your hand. This is the same thing, except you get to put 2 resonators, historical resonators, into your hand rather than just one like it usually is. And it's quick cast, which they very rarely are quick cast. So that's really good, really strong in my opinion inside of this type of deck. And I really like it. It makes it so that I would actually run one of those types of cards where I usually wouldn't before. Here's an interesting one. Oscar actually had this inside of his Scheherazade deck. This is a 5-cost quick cast, and when it enters the field, you get to choose up to 2 abilities. You can cancel a chant spell, you can bounce a resonator, or you can recover a resonator, or you can draw a card. So just the versatility of it is really nice. The 5 cost is really high in order to play him, but late game I could see this actually being a pretty decent card to play, assuming you have the correct measures to prevent him from being canceled. This one is pretty decent. It's a 2-cost quick cast that can buff other things, so this is one where it can work inside of other decks as well. Its banish ability works against things like the Green Guild deck and things like that. This Blazer card is pretty interesting. You can you look at your opponent's hand and discard a card, and he gets a counter. You can remove that counter to help protect him and do other things and cancel abilities that target him, basically to keep him alive. The 4 cost is a little bit high, especially inside of a dark deck, but I could see it at least being played, at least at the local level. This is the big card that's you'll see being played outside of this deck. Being able to reanimate stuff, not only for only 3 costs technically, right? The cheapest we have is 4 costs right now, but be able to consistently reanimate stuff over and over again, assuming she stays alive. That's a really cool ability that we might have to exploit at some point. We got our Stoning to Death. It has yellow-black instead of black-black, but it's Stoning to Death, which is pretty awesome, and it's historical, so this will definitely see play pretty much everywhere, I think. This is only inside of tribal decks, except maybe inside of monocolor decks that need to produce yellow or black to Judgment or something. I don't know. So maybe they could see play outside of it, but it's inside of this historical deck. And then we got the cool looking basic magic stones that are pretty cool. So yeah, my overall thoughts on this deck, especially after playing it, is if for $15 especially, I think this is a really good introductory deck, especially getting people into the game. If you just want, even outside of introductory, it's a really fun deck how everything just works in tandem with each other, that you could actually be able to put up a halfway decent fight with no modification, and maybe not win stuff, but because you need to throw in some green cancels and different things like that to help beef it up a bit. But just on its own, it's a pretty decent deck. Like I always make the comparison, the Pokemon's pre-constructed starter decks that they have are always absolutely terrible and just unplayable. This is actually playable. Whether or not you'll win is a different story, but you actually put up a fight and have some cool mechanics. You get to learn a lot of cool mechanics if you're new to it, or otherwise you're very familiar with his mechanics and can really work them to your advantage. You'll get cards that you'll use outside of this deck that will be very useful. You'll get foils of certain cards that might turn out to be useful, and you'll get a ruler that maybe will not work outside of a tribal setting, but he works pretty well inside of, I don't know. We'll see what people come up with, but yeah, it's definitely worth getting, especially for the small price tag, and it's a great deck overall. Those are my sort of brief thoughts on it, and it's a high quality. I could be wrong, but it just seems like it might have been the same printer that we got the main set, but it just seems like it's much more consistent quality than the main set was for whatever reason. If you look at the side here, there's no nicks or cuts when I open my booster boxes. When you line them up like this, there are nicks and stuff on them, and these don't have them. So I don't know if this was at a different printer, or the printer, because it's a shorter run with the starter decks, it was a little bit better. But yeah, definitely recommend it.